Quasi here. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I tricked my brain into becoming successful, into thinking like a successful person. This video is going to completely change your life, okay? Because what I'm going to share with you is really how the fundamentals of how your brain really works, how you can take advantage of this, step in and program it the way that you want, so that by the end of it, you can consciously program yourself the way that you need to in order to become successful. I'm going to be pulling back the curtains on something that took me a very, very long time to realize. So I want you to stick around to the very, very end of this video, because we're truly going to get into the fabric of how your mind truly works, how you can manipulate it to actually become successful rather than staying stuck in a negative feedback loop. Before I begin this video, I want to quickly announce that a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery Program. Make sure you wait around till the end of the video for the announcement on that. With that, let's get started. So today I wanted to talk to you about how to trick your brain into becoming successful. Okay, this was something that took me a very, very long time to consciously figure out how I did this. But it has sort of been playing around and I've been using it over and over in these tools over and over. But really what I want to share with you is that you've got to understand how your mind works in order to be able to use it to your advantage. Okay? So in understanding how the mind works, you must understand that the mind will only accept what fits its world view. Okay? What do I mean by worldview? Worldview is your paradigm, how you view the world and how, things are supposed to be, and in general, your basic view of how life is supposed to function. Okay, so many people have different worldviews which are dictated by their level of consciousness. Your paradigm is dictated sort of by your level of consciousness. If you believe that your world is good to you, then your world's going to be good to you. Your consciousness is high. If you believe that everything is out there to spite you, then that's exactly what's going to happen. So this is part and parcel of kind of being in that observer influences reality mindset. Okay, so this is quantum physics and the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, where, it's like the universe exists and the world exists because there is an observer to observe it. If no one was here to observe it, then it wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be real. Right? It's only real because it's observable. So in a sense, your hypothesis, whatever hypothesis you bring about, influences what you experience and your experience of reality. So we're wearing these lenses that filter out information based on what we truly want to see. And this is why sometimes opportunities that need to show up for you to get to a certain sector of your life and achieve certain things, they are not visible to you yet because you're focused unconsciously on the wrong things. So this video will show you exactly how to focus on those right things by changing how you focus on things, okay? So understand that the mind only accepts what fits its worldview. And your worldview is what we call your paradigm. This is a concept talked about by Bob Proctor. He talks about your own paradigm and your subconscious mind and what sort of information it filters for. But understand that there is the mind and then there is the heart. The mind will only accept, and you need the mind, by the way, to function in this material world, to communicate with other people, to experience certain things, and to basically just function, mostly just to function in this material world. That's what it's needed for. So to give you an example of how, I transitioned out of a professional career to doing what I wanted to do, I wouldn't have done it if it didn't fit my worldview. So what started to happen was I was in the 9 to 5, I was about to go into engineering full-time and do a job there because that was my worldview back then. That was my paradigm back then. My paradigm was you go to college, you get a degree, then you get a competitive job, you compete against other people and you get a full-time job, and then you sort of work up the ranks and try to get to the best that you can be. But you're supported by an external structure, which is another company. But then my worldview started to change when I started to see other people crushing it. I had a couple of friends who were doing YouTube. My friend Arlen, he was having like 100,000 subscribers back then. He was doing vlogging, he was selling merch. I was like, holy shit, he's making 20 grand a month online. Wow. My friend Raphael, and he was, I think he had like a couple thousand subscribers and he had his own business around e-commerce and he was absolutely crushing it. I was like, damn, these guys are doing really well. What if I could do this too? And it seems like they do what they want to do. They can travel, they can take these vacations. They have relatively more freedom than a 9 to 5. And, Arlen was in college at the time with me in the same year. and he's just as old as me, and Raphael is the same age as me as well, but he just decided not to go to college. So I was like, well, what if this is possible for me too? What if I could do it as well? That's what really made me start up a YouTube channel and really go forward at it and just sharing stuff and what I found. And because I started to accustom myself and surround myself with people like that, my worldview started to open up, okay? My paradigm shifted from 9 to 5 to, holy shit, online business, freedom. It is doable. It is achievable. So this is slowly how my perspective started to shift and my worldview started to broaden. And because of that, I was able to take the steps necessary, and the opportunities that needed to show up for me started to show up for me. And then I slowly started to invest into programs, into courses that taught me how to build up my business, build up my brand, even for my personal development, and seeing how I could become better, and started to invest in myself. But before, I was very, very stingy. I was holding on to all the money because I was like, oh, put into a retirement account, yes, save up all of this money, you never know what's gonna happen. I was always living in a perpetual state of fear of things could go wrong at any time, right? So slowly my own paradigm started to shift, and I started to become open to all of these experiences. And because I started to become open to them, I became receptive to them. So what's known as your reticular activating system, that's your lens. Your reticular activating system in your subconscious mind determines what you filter information out for. If you think you're an attractive person, and if you truly believe it, if your self-image is that, your reticular activating system is going to be programmed with that. I made a video on this, by the way. Click up here to check that out. But when your RAS gets programmed with that, you eliminate every single thing that says you're ugly. You just eliminate every single thing that says you're ugly, and you become delusional. You'll see that successful people are very, very delusional. They only look for places where they are successful. So I started to see that this is what successful people started to do, and they tricked their brains to doing this, right? They program their RAS the way that they would like it, not how society tells them it should be, right? So this again goes to whatever you're looking for, you will find. Your hypothesis influences your outcome. Please keep this in mind. This is super important. This is the one thing that will help you completely take control over your own life, okay? So understand that I started to get into business, not 0 to 100, even though you've seen it that way. It took me a really long time to build to a certain level, but then everything compounded for me. 0 to 20K a month took me 7-8 months to get to, and then from month 8 to month 11, I blew up from 20K to 100K a month in my business, right? Why did that happen? Because all the right work was there, the right mindset was there. So it's because I was correctly aligned within myself. I was receptive to it, so I became open to receiving that. But really understand that, if you're not in the correct mindset anyways, your paradigm and your worldview is limited. You're always going to be looking at what's wrong with everything you're trying. So this is why I see a lot of people who come into the Reality Mastery program who've tried for years and years different business opportunity, and what they've wound up is losing 20K and so many different business attempts and doing ads, and they have this internal barrier that they can't even see. Somewhere subconsciously, their reticular activating system is filtering out for why they can be successful and why they should be a failure and why they should stick to a 9 to 5, right? They haven't been able to break free from it. What's interesting though is that we've seen that the clients who've sort of come into it with an open mindset, right, who've come into the program with an open mindset, open and willing to receive, they're more flexible and they adopt to the ideas much quicker and they make a transformation much quicker. Okay, so because of that, I saw that I was becoming moldable to all of those situations because I came with an open mind. I didn't really expect anything to happen with YouTube, to be honest with you. I just started to make videos. I was like, I'll probably end up in the 9 to 5. I didn't expect anything out of it, but I was just open-minded to the opportunities that would lead up to it. And I just trusted that if it's meant to be, something will happen. And it did. People started to reach out to me for coaching because I was truly just sharing value, right? And then I was like, whoa, maybe I can do coaching. I don't have to sell merch, because merch is all I knew back then. I was like, ooh, merch or e-com. Yes, let's try e-com. Tried that, that didn't work. I wasn't aligned to that, right? But then I was like, merch, but I need a big enough audience for merch, blah, blah, blah. But then I saw coaching was a better direction for me to go, because even of my personality and what I truly am passionate about, right? So I started to craft and forge my own path towards that. So that's what you got to understand. This is how I got into business from a 9 to 5 mindset. How I tricked my mind into believing that it can be possible, all as a result of giving my mind proof. And this is the biggest mistake people make. People try to convince their minds to believe something. Okay, you can't do that. You can't do affirmations and expect your mind to get convinced. You can tell yourself you're wealthy, you're successful, you have an online business, you're doing 10K a month, all you want. But without evidence, the mind will never accept it. Without proof, the mind will never accept it because the mind needs proof. This is the limited paradigm of the mind. The mind always requires proof. If it didn't happen in the past, it's not possible in the mind for the future, right? So the mind doesn't want to believe it. So instead of trying to convince your mind, show it. This is the secret. The secret is show your mind, give your mind proof. How did I show my mind? I showed my mind that online businesses were possible because I surrounded myself with people like Arlen and Raphael. Because I started to go into online communities and entrepreneurs, because I started to invest in mentors who were already further up in that online business chain than I was, right? And because I started to look at that, I started to get into those communities, invested in mentors. I started to surround myself in that energy field. It pulled me into it, okay? It started to pull me into that energy field where the neutral was doing 10K a month. The neutral then became doing 100K months when I went into higher and higher communities. And then I started to invest in masterminds, paying $30,000 for a year of mastermind, where the neutral is doing $500,000 a month, right? So that's what I'm in now. That's the kind of stage I'm at now, which is pulling me up to that level as well. So this is the importance of having what we call as reference experience. If it has happened for someone else, if it has happened for you in the past, then it can happen for you again. But most people fail at giving themselves reference experience because they're trying to, create something out of thin air which doesn't even exist. And you don't have to do that. What you want already exists. You've got to find a way for your mind to believe that it does. Okay? You've got to find a way for your reticular activating system to really believe that it does. So this is where reference experiences and confirmations come in. For example, if you want to believe that you're a successful salesperson and you've never closed a deal in your online business before, you've never done a sales call before, and you're like, oh shit, I don't know if it's going to work. And you've done so many sales calls and they've all failed. Now you start to doubt yourself. What's happening is your mind has no proof whatsoever of success and you can't see it. So now it's becoming clouded with failure. And you've started to feed this failure up more and more. And there's a key reason, by the way, why your mind always goes towards failure rather than success. And I'm going to explain to you the true fabric of how your mind works for you to understand this, how your brain actually works for you to use this for yourself. But what you must remember is that the mind always reverts to the negative, okay, because of this survival instinct. We're going to get into that. When you start to get into that mindset of, oh no, I'm not going to be successful, and you've been overwhelmed by past failures, it's time to consciously override that by looking further and further into your past, or maybe something that's even happened today that even gives you a little shred of proof that it is possible. Oh, I've had a successful interaction with this person. Maybe I do have good communication skills. If I do have communication skills, then maybe I can be successful at sales. Oh, I invested in a mentor who's amazing at sales. Maybe I can learn from this person and actually get better at sales. You see how I'm showing my mind that even there's an opening. As long as you can open a little bit of the door to show yourself it is possible, then it will be. Then you can make that door infinitely larger until you enter it and you become it. It becomes your paradigm. You completely shift your reticular activating system. This is super, super key to understand. This is the only thing I want you to take away from this video, if it's one thing that you do take away from this, is understanding that it's what you choose. You must develop a bias towards success. If you want to trick your brain into becoming successful, you have to filter out consciously anything that doesn't serve your success and focus more and more consciously on what does serve your success. The only way to do that is to, again, have that conscious awareness. Just take a step back and really see where you're evaluating and you're attributing too much meaning to. You put too much meaning to failure. You resist failure. And by resisting failure, you put too much attention to it. And just by putting too much attention to it, you put more and more water, or you put more and more into the negative cup. Okay? So let's get into how your mind actually works for us to be able to contextualize and understand this. Okay? So really, before getting into that, remember the importance of having reference experience and the importance of having confirmations. Okay? So now, if I were to draw two cups, let's say we have cup number 1 and we have cup number 2. In cup number 1, we're going to call this the positive cup. Okay? Positive cup. And cup number 2 is negative cup. Right? And we're going to talk about the two different conditions and the two different paradigms of living. First of all, we have the survival mindset. This is our default biological programming. We're at default programmed to be in survival mode. And survival mode is essentially coming from a fear, avoidance, contraction. These are the qualities of a survival mindset, okay? And the biggest thing of all, it's unconscious, right? You don't have to do anything to be in a survival mindset. That's your default. You come out, your default mindset is fear. Your default mindset is survival. It's already programmed into you. The second mindset, or paradigm if you will, is thrival. This is key. Thrival mindset is characterized by, first of all, we have desire and vision, let's say. Vision, moving towards rather than getting away from. So whatever the opposite of avoidance is, you can pull up a thesaurus to look at that. I don't know what the opposite of avoidance is, but moving towards, let's call it. Number 3, expansion. And finally, conscious. Okay? This is very, very important for you to understand. Please rewatch this over and over again. Survival mindset is unconscious. Thrival mindset, we consciously have to choose it. Okay? This is why your mind will always unconsciously go to the negative. It will always come in and go to the negative of what could happen. So when you're asleep and when you're unconscious in reality, anything that happens, you're automatically going to perceive it negatively. And what happens is a neutral set point for your consciousness has been set based on how you've been living up until this point. Okay? So you can make thrival your unconscious neutral, but you have to consciously get yourself up to that level. You are born with a certain set level of consciousness. Okay? So most people are born with a survival sort of fear mindset, right? And as they grow up, they fall unconscious and they receive programming from outside of, oh yeah, this is bad, oh, corona is bad, and you shouldn't go outside, oh, fear, there's disease everywhere, etc., etc. And then like everything just programs you to be in constant fear mode. And then because we're unconscious, and when you're unconscious, you're very, very receptive, you just get programmed with that. But you have to consciously choose to get to a thrival point, okay? Because survival is just all we need to live. Thrival is what you need to be able to experience and achieve your wildest dreams. So whenever experiences come, let's say you have experience number 1. If you fall unconscious, it's going to go to its neutral, which is going to the negative cup. If you consciously choose for it to be so, this experience is divided into 2. There's a positive part to it and a negative part to it. Every single event is inherently neutral, but then you put a certain meaning onto it, and then by the virtue of that meaning, a certain cup gets filled. If you got bullied in the past and you perceive it as, I'm like this because I got bullied. My life sucks because I got bullied in the past. That neutral experience of getting bullied goes into the negative cup. If you got bullied in the past and you're like, shit, I'm so glad I got bullied because now I have good social skills, goes into the positive cup, right? Whichever cup is more full, that's your consciousness set point, okay? If this cup is more full than the negative cup, then your consciousness is 51% or more is positive, right? So now you start to look at why you can be successful rather than why you can't. Successful people, again, like I said, they have a bias towards success. Okay, this is the key thing that I've learned. If you really look at successful people, they're delusional. They're so delusional. They just ignore everything that why it could go wrong. They take it into account, but they take that risk anyways. Like if you study the lives of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, the kind of massive risks and investments they've made in themselves, in their companies, which could have probably put them down to the ground, but it didn't, because they coordinated through it correctly, and they sort of unconsciously do it because they don't understand the hidden dynamics behind it. Or maybe they do. And they start to come in from this mindset more of filling up the positive cup. So they know that consciously You've got to get to this thrival mindset, right? Unconsciously, you're going to be in survival. And even if you look at Jeff Bezos' life, when he was confronted with the decision of starting up Amazon versus continuing on with his Wall Street business, Wall Street stock, whatever, he had a Wall Street job. And he was like, well, do I want to live the rest of my life in this Wall Street job, or do I want to take a risk and start up something I'm passionate about? Answer was clear. Right? That's how he looked at it. That's how his decision-making process was. So you see how powerful that is when you project out your life, what it could look like if you're going on this shitty life path, based on if you actually wanted to do something you wanted to do. So this is what you must understand, that anytime an experience, an event comes, what meaning do you attribute to it? Are you looking at the positive, or are you looking at the negative? The mind will always go towards the negative because it's in the survival mindset. This is how just the mind has been taught to work. The mind has been taught to avoid anything that's bad. It's more of avoidance. And guess what? The more you avoid anything that's bad, it keeps you stuck in bad. I can't tell you how many people I've seen who have this fear of failure in their businesses, and as a result, they just experience failure. They're living their failures right now, but they're fearing future failure. They're like, oh, I don't want to be a failure in my business when I'm 36. And up until 35, they've been a failure at trying to generate revenue in their business, or they haven't sort of gotten the traction that they've wanted. So they're already a failure, fearing more failure, and they have been fearing failure in the past. This goes to show that the fear of failure actually brings about failure. The fear of failure itself brings about the failure, because it's like the what is it called? It's the target fixation, right? If you focus on avoiding something, just like being on the highway, you're driving your car, you look at the car next to you, focus on avoiding it, the more you move towards that car. You develop this target fixation, which moves you more and more towards that thing you're actually trying to avoid. So just like that, when you focus unconsciously, of course you're not consciously choosing to focus, you focus unconsciously on avoiding failure, you move more and more towards failure. Okay, so that's how that works. Now I want to share with you the 3 keys to help you truly apply this and trick your brain and get to a point where you become biased towards success. Okay, so remember, before I erase all of this, that actually I don't need to erase it, but remember that attention is what fills the cup. Okay, the key is attention fills cup. All right? Whatever attention you put onto it, positive or negative attention, if you think something's positive, it's going to go to the positive cup. It's going to serve you later on in life. If you think something's negative, it's going to go into the negative cup. It's going to haunt you later on in life. Okay? Let's talk about the 3 keys. Number 1. Key number 1 is, if you want to truly overcome yourself, awareness is number 1. Why do I say that? Awareness comes up a lot, right? It's a loose term. You can use it to basically go through anything. But awareness and consciousness, consciously choosing this over this, right? So you must overcome yourself. You truly must. The only person getting in your own way is you, right? There's nothing else getting in your way. What emotions do you find yourself unconsciously focusing on a predominant basis? So look at the emotions and thoughts. So in a single day, if you go towards the end of the day, do journaling. What thoughts were you focusing on a predominant basis? Okay, so make 2 sort of columns, a positive column and a negative column. What positive thoughts did I focus on today? What negative thoughts did my mind go to today? And there are parts to it that are unconscious, but consciously, when you were awake, what did you notice? Just write that down. Do it over a period of a month and see towards the end. Look at the list. Look at the list at the end of the month. Really commit to this for the next 30 days. Look at the list towards the end of the month and see this month how many positive things did your mind go to, how many negative things did your mind go to. Right? That's key. But another key part to this is, and what really makes this flawed, is the emotional intensity that you have towards the thoughts and the emotions. Because if the emotional intensity towards the fears is stronger than the emotional intensity to the desires, then you're going to manifest more and more of the negative. Right? Number 2, understand that anytime you want to convince your mind to believe something, it's futile to try and convince it. The more you try to force your mind and batter it into convincing something, the more it will resist, the more it will not. It won't listen. So what your mind needs is proof. Give it proof. Surround yourself with mentors, with coaches, with other people who have done the same and what you want to do, with other successful people. Be in a community of successful people. Let the success of others make you better, not bitter. This is key. This is why people fall into what we call the comparison trap, comparing what other people have done, because understand you're on your own journey. If I were to compare myself with what Arlen did, what Raphael did back then, I'd be like, oh shit, why am I not doing this? Why am I going to a stupid engineering job? Instead of getting inspired by them, I would have become bitter and focused on the wrong things. My desire would have come from a place of avoiding the 9 to 5 rather than what I truly wanted, right? It can get you to a certain level. Again, the avoidance mindset is a survival mindset. It again gets you to a certain level, but it only gets you enough to survival. It doesn't get you enough to thrival. And survival, by survival, I mean getting to like a 5K month or a 2K month and then just coasting there and having this inconsistency in your business. If you want to get to revolutionary levels like 10K, 20K, 30K, 100K months in your business, then you've got to truly get into thrival and be moved by vision rather than fear and avoidance. Okay? And finally, number 3, understand that your hypothesis influences your outcome. This is just the one thing you've got to understand. So, accordingly, develop a bias. Develop bias. Hope you can see this. Right. So develop a bias towards what you want rather than what you want to avoid. Just ignore completely what you want to avoid. Have these rose-tinted filters and lenses that filter out for anything that isn't serving your forward movement. And this is something you've got to consciously do for a while until the positive cup gains enough power. Okay? And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. Let's quickly recap. Today, we talked about the concept of tricking your brain into success and how your mind works and why your mind always moves towards the negative and why it's so difficult to get out of the negative. Okay? And understand that the mind will only accept what fits its worldview. If something has been done in the past, then the mind will accept that maybe it is possible. So with me in my business, looking at Arlen and Raphael, my friends who are crushing it online, I was like, wow, shit, they're as old as I am and they're crushing it. It's relatable. See, if I looked at someone who's doing like a couple million online, I'd be like, that's not relatable. They're like at such a high stage. They're not my close friends. So in a sense, when you have mentors, and if you really want to work closely with mentors, what I would recommend is having someone who you can relate to, who've been in the same situation as you in the past. Because if you go to someone too far up, their problems right now are different from what they used to struggle with, right? Maybe you want to join their entry-level programs rather than, jumping straight to a mastermind. It doesn't make sense, right? So the mind only accepts what fits its worldview. And most try to convince the mind, but that's not how the mind works. The mind works in multiplication division. If you try to force yourself into believing you're worthy or you're worthy of the 10K months and you're a successful business owner, it won't believe it. It has no proof. Show your mind instead. Let your mind see instead. It's kind of like dating a person, right? It's kind of like winning a girl over. Instead of trying to convince her that, look, I'm so good. I'm good enough for you. Look at all the money I have and look at all the muscles I have. Look. Instead of that, let them sort of see how cool you are by you just being authentic. You kind of just show them by being you instead of trying to force them into believing something. So just like that, that's how your mind works. Okay? Don't try to force your mind into believing something. Show it instead. Show it proof. Give it proof that it is possible. And the key thing here is reference experience, giving it confirmations. Instead of doing affirmations more and more, back up your affirmations with confirmations that it is possible. And then it will be. This is how you trick your brain into success. And finally, we talked about how your mind truly works and the two main paradigms, which is survival and thrival, and your default neutral set point for your consciousness. Okay? Understand that the qualities of survival are fear and avoidance and contraction and unconscious. When you fall unconscious, you're susceptible to programming. You can't say no to programming or say yes to programming. You don't get to choose. You take what you can get, right? So understand that with thrival, you're actually being moved by vision. You're moving towards something rather than away from something. And really, you're coming from a place of expansion and consciousness. You've got to consciously program yourself to get to thrival. Survival is what makes you comfortable. Thrival is what makes you, again, thrival is when you consciously choose to be uncomfortable so that you can experience an extraordinary existence. That's key, okay? And understand that attention is what fills up this cup. Any neutral event that happens, this is why people get influenced by trauma, right? So click up here, I've made a video on that and how to stop trauma affecting your life. It's because they put a certain meaning and unconsciously internalized it in a way that it's in the negative cup now. And it's influencing their present existence and their future to come. When you say, oh, my life sucks because I got bullied, that's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you say, wow, my life is great because I got bullied, now I actually have communication skills, or etc., then it is going to become great, right? And finally, the 3 keys we talked about to really influencing your mind is, first of all, learning how to become more and more aware of what's going on and watching yourself. Taking a step back from yourself and watching what sort of predominant thoughts, what sort of feelings, what sort of emotions you keep focusing on every single day. A powerful way to do that is if you have 2 columns on a journal, and every single night at the end of the day, you write positive thoughts you have and sort of give yourself a scale of 10 on the emotional intensity of these positive thoughts and the negative thoughts you have, and give yourself an emotional, a sort of rating out of 10. So you'll see that you'll have more negative thoughts. Most people do. And the strength of those negative thoughts is going to be stronger, right? The negative thoughts are going to be like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. And the positive thoughts are going to be 7 out of 10. Right? Number 2, give yourself proof. Okay, if you want to convince yourself, then the best way to convince is to show. Don't try to force and beat your mind up into believing something, but just give it proof and it'll have no choice to believe it, right? And finally, understand that your hypothesis influences the outcome. And what I mean by that is teach yourself to become very, very biased. Ignore anything. So a great way of doing this is getting like an astrological reading. And whenever I get a reading, if it says a bad reading and it says, oh, your life's going to suck within the next year, I say, oh no, that's not true. That's BS. I don't accept that. But if it says, oh, your life's going to be great, you're going to make a big move within a year and you're going to be really successful, then I'll be like, yeah, I like that one, I'll accept it. So just like that, becoming biased. Kind of like seeing signs. If you see 1111 a lot, you tell yourself, something good is going to happen. If you see 666 a lot, something good is going to happen. Right? So you sort of become cheeky and you become like a little bit biased on what you choose. Right? And based on the meaning you put onto it, your life unfolds. And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And also, I'm super excited to announce that a couple of spots, as I mentioned before, have opened up for the free one-to-one consult. Make sure you click on the link below to sign up. And please only sign up if you're serious about working together and seeing if we're a good fit to work together to help you take your life to the next level in the Reality Mastery Program. Who we typically work with are as follows. People who are professionals, first of all, they're really looking to transition out and start up their own businesses, and they've tried out the different business opportunities, and they see that they don't have a business model or opportunity problem because they've tried the affiliate marketing, drop shipping, real estate, investing, stock trading, all of these things, nothing ever sticks, right? And they always return back to their 9 to 5. Why? It was never the business model that was the problem because other people are getting successful with it, right? But it's rather them. Who they are is the problem. They're only worthy of the cubicle. The cubicle is what they keep returning to. The same thing with the entrepreneurs we work with. They want to scale up, make more money in their businesses, go from 10K to 20K months, 20K to 40K months. And people who do have these trading businesses, the coaching businesses, the agencies. And with all of their attempts, they have the business coaches, tactics and strategies. They know what to do. It's never a skill set problem, but rather it's them. They're only worthy of the 10K months. Their reticular activating system unconsciously focuses on that and filters out for anything that could lead them to 20K months. That's what they keep returning back to. Okay, if that sounds like you, if you really want to take your life to the next level by solving the internal problem, make sure you click on the link in the description below to sign up, and I hope I see you there. Thank you for watching. And yeah, also a free Facebook group is open for you to take advantage of. The link for that is also in the description. Thanks for watching. Till next time, peace.